Okay, a second option for a political arrangement is some kind of referendum democracy. We now have the technology where you can go on your computer, and government can provide computers for everybody, right? You go on your computer, you can follow the debate on every issue you want in as much depth as you want, and then you just, with your thumbprint and all kinds of other passwords, you vote, and every issue is decided this way. Okay? Well, there's the first issue of time that I've mentioned, and there's the second issue of this isn't a deliberative process. Okay? So it gives us a lot of input, but how you frame the question often determines what the outcome is going to be. People who work on referendums know that if you word the referendum this way, everybody supports affirmative action. If you word it this way, everybody's against it. And so the trick is not to vote. The trick is to be the one who does the wording, right? And so if you actually want people to sit and make decisions, you want them to have some kind of interaction, some kind of deliberation. But, of course, the benefit of referendum democracy is that people are really having their votes counted in a way that might not be accurately counted by representatives who don't represent you. Another approach says, okay, this is sort of the autonomous communities approach. This approach says, okay, we want people to have face-to-face meetings where they can deliberate and can make decisions, and let's just break the country up into, or the world up into lots of small autonomous communities, and they will all make their decisions for themselves. They are autonomous. Okay. The problem with this is that not all decisions, not all problems are small scale, and not all answers are small scale. To deal with environmental problems, it's not enough to have that particular autonomous community make a decision and this particular one make a decision. We often need to coordinate. Now, you could say, well, why couldn't they just, sort of come together and say, okay, let's all do this together. This is sensible. Let's cut emissions or whatever. Okay. The point is you still need some kind of decision-making procedure. If you say these are autonomous communities and therefore they're not bound by a decision they don't agree to, you're essentially saying that the autonomous communities are voting by consensus, and that those autonomous communities that don't want to go along with it don't, and they can block a consensus, which means that you can't deal with global warming. You can't deal with other kinds of problems. The other problem with autonomous communities is the question of size. Some of the people who talk about autonomous communities talk about groups of, let's say, 10,000 people. Well, 10,000 is a lot smaller than 300 million, but it's also not face-to-face. And so, those Greek meetings where you had 10,000 people and a couple of orators got up and, I don't know how they did this without loudspeakers, but somehow, people spoke to the 10,000 people all assembled there. That's not the kind of meeting that really encourages face-to-face deliberation. It's the people who have sort of the most confidence at public speaking and the people who are the loudest, and it doesn't really allow for full deliberation.